Hello there, my name is Stefan, and in this episode of Kerbal Space Program, I will show you how to bring a stranded ship back into the atmosphere of Kerbin. So as you see, my bigger science craft, was on a tour to Duna and returned, just barely, because the fuel they had was hardly enough to get into a stable orbit around Kerbin, and so their periapsis is about 5,000 kilometers high above the ground. So, to bring down the periapsis, our brave Kerbinaut Jebediah is willing to sacrifice his life to make an EVA rescue mission out of this failed mission so far. So he just maneuvers carefully behind the engine and pushes with his tiny EVA propellant pack. And as you see, this takes some time. And when he just have one unit of this EVA propellant left, he will return to the ship. And this is purely a safety measure, because if he haven't any fuel left on his tiny propellant unit, he will be stranded as well, and not in the safety of the ship, which saves him from radiation from the sun. And here you see I forgot to turn the ship into the right direction. I want to have it this way, so the tiny thrusts the EVA propellant unit provides have the most effect and are used in the most efficient way. And Jebediah goes again, and this time he uses too much thrust to go to the engine and loses some control, but he regains it quickly, and this time very carefully he tries to get to the engine without bumping his head again and spinning out of control. And here he is, and burning the fuel. And again, this will take some time. You see, in the upper corner, it's about 2 minutes on real time. So, thankfully, with physical acceleration, it's not quite as long. So, and then he returns to the ship and grabs some new fuel for his propellant unit. So as you know, every time he gets into the shuttle, into the ship, he will replenish all of his EVA fuel. So he could theoretically do this push 1,000 times, but if the thrusts he needed to do are too much, it's probably easier to send some other ship to push the capsule and the crew, so it doesn't take as much time as you would spend on get him out, push the ship, get him in again, get him out, and so on, and that for a few thousand times. But with this maneuver, as you see, every thrust he gives, every burn he makes, the periapsis of the shuttle goes down by about 300 kilometers. So it will take some trips to the engine of this ship, but not that much. So time acceleration 6 times as fast, and you see it's not that spinning out of control again, and there we are. So it doesn't take as much time for you than it took me to do this maneuver, and bumping his head again. So I love it how Jebediah is all confident and yay and stuff, and Bill and Bob are in the capsule and like, oh my god, we're all gonna die, I'll never see my family again. But Jebediah, the hero of our mission, and of course Jebediah is everyone's favorite, as everyone knows. Yeah, he will make this trip a few times and return to the capsule. And yeah, in Germany we have an idiom for some actions like that, and it's called "Wer sein Auto liebt, der schiebt." And I don't know if there's an accurate counterpart in English, but it's translated roughly into when you stranded with your car because you have no fuel left or a flat tire, and you love it. You love your car. You are willingly to push it to the next house to the next garage to repair the tire or to refuel your car, instead of abandoning it on the side of the road. And I think this is exactly the case here, because yeah, I could just send a rescue mission and the Kerbonauts go into the other ship and will be rescued, and the other ship will float in the space forever. But there are very much and very, very delicate experiments on board, and I want those science points, you know. So he pushes a few times, and yeah, the last trip you saw I just have to go 100 kilometers lower to be in the atmosphere, and there it is. The periapsis is about 20 kilometers high, which is more than enough to get into the atmosphere and have some air brake maneuver. So, jump cut here, because I tried to store all the experiments in the capsule, which is generally a good idea, because you can save the goo experiments and the science lab experiments and so on into the capsule, so you don't have to bring all the experiments back to Kerbin. But the problem is I had some experiments multiple. As you know, you can only store one experiment of a type in the capsule. So, for example, if you have the goo observation in the higher atmosphere of Kerbin and in the lower atmosphere, you can both store in the capsule. But if you have two experiments in the higher atmosphere, you can only save one of those experiments, and the other one gets lost, or you have to send it, which, of course, doesn't wield as much science points as you would return the experiments by yourself. So, as you see, we're about 50 kilometers high. We put out the landing gear, so we have as much drag as possible to slow the spacecraft down as much as possible through friction in the air. And yeah, because we don't have any fuel left, we can't assist in the landing with some controlled burns. So we have to rely on the friction to slow the ship enough so it doesn't rip it apart, or the parachutes will not open or something like that. So as you see, I rearranged the parachute which I used to land on Duna, and have fewer and don't have to use as much fuel as I needed to just by slowing down with the engines. But hammering space, it doesn't do anything, so I have to deploy all parachutes manually. So here I try to rearrange that it does work again, but it doesn't. Maybe they'll fix that in time, but not in this version. So I just have to deploy all parachutes manually, but of course I wait until the flames go out, because it's somewhat crazy to open a parachute when it would start to burn. I mean, it's crazy that I deploy all the chutes at Mach 2 at this point. So but as you see, the chutes do the job, and the velocity goes down very quickly, and I'm confident that it will drop under 100 meters per second when they reach 500 meters above the ground. So yeah, but it will take some time, because you see here the impact time is about 20 seconds, and yeah. So the first reason, by the way, is that I doesn't had enough fuel to land on Kerbin without this maneuvering, was that I was too impatient to return to Kerbin, so I burned way too early and had to do some maneuvering burns, and they were quite wasting. So we're about 500 meters above the sea ground, and parachutes should open any moment, and there goes the engine. I love it. How it is not attached to the ship and splashes down, and yeah, as you saw, the engine went off on the staging menu, so it hit the ground. And in about, well, that are very, so yeah. The flight engineer says it's about 7 seconds, but I don't think that's actually 7 seconds. It will take a lot longer. So time acceleration, and last 100 meters without time accelerations, you don't know what the physics engine will do if it hits the ground too fast. So retract the gears. I try, but doesn't work. Never mind. And capsule goes off the rest of the ship, but that's no problem, because we can just switch to the debris, which I'll do now. I have to turn the debris on, and I was wondering what the other debris was. So switch to. I said switch to, and recover vessel. And yeah, as you see, lots of science points. The whole mission, when I started the mission, I had about 100 science points, and now I have 2,200. And you see, this whole mission wielded some science points, and I'm quite happy with that. So, of course, I have to return Jebediah and Wilkerman and the Bob, and yeah, some more science points. I'm very happy with that, and that was my rescue missions, and I hope you had fun and learned something today. So farewell, my name is Stefan, and have a nice day.